let them make the mistake so that we can correct them after they've made a mistake. But I think the worst is to let them feel afraid of making mistakes. I think it would not give them the opportunity to grow as confident people.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to Season 2 of Tune Islam, a podcast for Singapore Muslim millennials on Islamic faith, love and happiness. Here's where we share spiritual guidance and practical insights to inspire positivity and uplift our well-being. My name is Azza Fariha and I will be your host for today. Joining us today, we have Ustaz Luqman Hakim and our special guest today, Annabelle Francis. Welcome, you guys. Assalamualaikum.
Salam.
Now, Ustaz Luqman is a graduate of the Islamic University in Madinah and is now a Youth Development Officer. Am I right, Ustaz?
Yes.
And Mosque Religious Officer at An-Nahdah Mosque.
Yeah.
And he also advocates a healthy lifestyle and believes in the simple pleasures of life. A fun fact about Ustaz, he would play basketball whenever he has free time. And he even works out with the youths.
Yeah.
Master skills. Show your master skills, Ustaz.
Steady lah.
This one once upon a time. Yeah.
Once upon a time. Now, Annabelle Francis, as you know, our very sweet Belle, a former actress presenter and is a proud mother of 3 children. How old are your kids, Belle, now?
One's 20, 19 and 9.
Ah, nice. I think I have a lot to learn from you. She manages the PR of her husband's business, Waku Waku Yakiniku, and she also has her own brand of antimicrobial sanitizers. Now, we are going to delve straight into it. You know, Ustaz, maybe I direct my first question to you. Children nowadays, they are more exposed to various materials, especially online, something that we cannot control. But both offline and online, of course. And we can only hope as parents to supervise them to some extent. At some point, we realize that the world is much bigger than how we picture it to be. The things that we think they know and what they actually know might not be the same actually. Yeah. How can we as parents support them to process and consume the information overload? How do we make sure that they are actually consuming the right information and, being able to navigate from there?
Thank you very much, Azza, for the question. So when we talk about, supporting them and processing the information overload I heard just now, the best, I would say, and the most preferred method is to have that communication. Communication is key. Communication is very important and is the most important thing in a relationship. Be it with your husband or between parents or between you and your friends. Communication is very important. So for you to have that open communication between you and your child, however old that child may be, they become comfortable and then they are able to share. And when they have something they want to ask you and want to process together with you, I think that would be a big win.
Yes. I think that is actually the difficult part. How do we manage as parents to communicate effectively but also make sure they know, that we are trying to do this because it's for their own good, not because we're trying to control them. My 8-year-old daughter, she will say that I'm very demanding because I like to control. This one no, this one no, this one no. So she says I'm very demanding.
I think one other thing that we should take into consideration is the fact that, for example, if let's say they already are able to watch their TV and have the handphones with them and go on to social media, there's bound to be a lot of information there, bound to be a lot of from TikTok and the sources.
Yeah.
Even my youth come to me a lot of times like nowadays and ask whether this is correct, whether this is true, because anybody can post about anything online, right? One very important trait for them to have, right, aside from that communication line established, is to have that critical thinking. And that critical thinking, I would say, needs to be based back to the fundamentals of Islam. Because at the end of the day, as Muslims, we have things that are right for us to do, things that we should not do, things that we see that are bad, things that we see that are good. Yeah, so all of this needs to be with the child and for them to use their God-given brain, for them to use that to process and to able to discern discern the information. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ustaz. That's very good. I think also at a certain age, then when they are a bit more mature enough, they're able to understand what is right and wrong. Maybe I direct my next question to Belle then. As parent of teenagers, Perhaps if you can recall, you can share with us one of the biggest challenges that you have faced in trying to foster this critical thinking that Ustaz has just mentioned in your children.
Oh my goodness. Teenagers, you really cannot control them.
It's a different ball game, right?
It's a total different ball game. After they reach 11 and 12, you know.
Okay, you must prep me. What age must I start?
All I can say is really enjoy your young ones now, all right? Because, try to stretch the time as much as you can, because once they get to teenhood, there's so much that you can do. And like what you said, Ustaz, it's so important to have that communication. Because right now, it's not just TV, right? TV, you can see everybody. We grew up with a TV monitor, right?
Yeah.
And people can see what we're seeing.
Yeah.
Your parents, your grandparents who's half blind can see what you're watching, right? And it's very controlled. So it's like, program, Channel 5 have this, and the Sesame Street will come out.
Yep.
And it's kind of like, the drill. But right now, have you seen what's online? It's crazy. I mean, like my little one is 9 years old. He is not allowed to watch YouTube shorts, right? But you cannot control it. It's right there in the fingertips, right? And you cannot see it. And they're so clever to hide it.
Yeah.
So it's so important to have that communication. And then through that communication, we educate our children to make the right choices, which is so often then going to make the wrong choices because it's so fun to do the wrong things.
Yes, I know.
So boring. I mean, I give them something nice and educational to watch.
No,
like
they
who
don't
wants to
want.
watch about elephants when you can watch about what's going out there? So it's so difficult. So the other thing that me and Heikel, my husband, right? We have kind of like a tactic, right? So he supposed to stay very relevant, right? Meaning to say that he knows what's happening out there. He goes, he searches, he sits down. I used to scold him like, what are you doing? Sitting down and help me, But say no. But he's actually, when I look at what he's doing, he's actually looking at what the kids are doing, what's trending, what's happening. So he understands what the kids are actually going through. Yeah. For me, I'm more of, I'm the boring side of things, right? Obviously, the mother is like, oh, we nag, we tell them what to do, but we need to set those boundaries. So it's so important that they can go and they think that, being with their dads or being with my husband, they can go and have that liberal thinking space, know? And then with me, it'll be like, okay, remember, Allah is always watching you. Yeah. It's a work in progress. Yeah. No formula works, right? Every
and we know what works best for the kids and our
Yes,
family and our own personalities, right? Now, Ustaz, as they say, kids are the perfect mirror of their parents. Yet, they are also their individual selves, as what Belle has mentioned also. Once they reach teenhood, they start to find themselves. Am I right? Now, we may not be able to shape them perfectly into our image of what ideally we want them to be, but there are certain traits that are very important to help them navigate the world today. Can you share with us what are some of these fundamental traits that we need to start thinking about instilling in the children?
First of all, before I even touch that, I like what Annabelle just now mentioned about the communication and how by having her method, her and her husband, right, Sheikh Haikal, they actually managed to gain the trust of their children, which I think is very important. The communication is supposed to facilitate for that trust to happen, right? So once they're comfortable, they're able to share, and Alhamdulillah, right? So navigating the world, it's a big bad world out there.
All the parents,
the things that we have
that complicated, when we were growing up.
Yeah.
But now it's like...
Because you know what you said just now, like we grew up with like TV in front of us, so everybody can see, and it's controlled. But now
we had a program, right? A TV program.
your
parents
schedule.
know.
This time is this one. Channel 8, this time I need to watch. So don't watch your show. It's my turn, like that.
Correct.
But no, they don't wait for their show.
Yes.
They choose what they want, which the mindset has shifted.
Yes. What's worse is last time is like longer shows. They get to sit down longer. Now
1
it's like
hour at least.
5 seconds.
Yeah.
The shorts, the reels.
Can.
And that does not help with the short attention span. That it is like training them to have short attention span. So sorry, Ustaz, so to cut there.
What you say is important, because of the scrolling and the excessive content. They really need that skill to be able to navigate the world, right? Again, the big bad world. So we talk about navigating. They need that moral compass first and foremost, right? So what is morally right is one thing. What is religiously right is also another. Of course, we're talking this podcast about.
Can you give us an example? What is morally right? That's very interesting. Morally right and religiously right.
Ooh, I don't think this podcast is enough. What is religiously right?
The top of my mind, I would say, is the LGBT issue. Okay, so maybe 50 or 100 years ago, people's thoughts about the LGBT issue might be different. Okay, but for Islam, kan religiously, it has been the same throughout.
Yes.
So this is what we talk about, what is morally
I
right and what
see,
is
understand.
religiously right. And what is religiously right might not necessarily be something that is appealing to the child. Okay, and because there's a lot of terms being thrown out these days lah. And hence their moral compass, their religious compass needs to be there, okay, and facilitated by the parents.
Yeah,
But in most times, it's a conflict. You know, I mean, to explain to the children, especially when we're such in a secular world, right?
Yep.
It's like every time when you try to put religion into the moral compass of things, and then to be like, Mom, not everything is about like religion. I'm like,
Yep.
and from where we come from, it's like, from
Yes.
where we're standing, yes, it is. It's
exactly.
like, Ma, you don't understand, Ma. You're right. And I'm like,
Correct.
no, you know, there's only one point of view, but for them, it's so many different levels
Yeah.
of views right now. You know what I mean? So they have to see, because they're also matching with their environment around them, because they have so many different non-Muslims.
Yeah.
Right? You know, they all, my kids come from all mission schools. They have different perspectives and all that. So they're trying to like balance. So not only navigating the world through Islamic values or like their moral compass, it's like they're getting it from so many. It's so confusing for them, and it's always in conflict. Because morally, we're supposed to be open with so many ideas.
Yeah.
Right? But Islamically,
Yeah.
it's a yes or a no.
Correct.
Right or wrong. There's
Correct.
only one way. There's black and white. There's no gray areas. And now in the world of gray, how do we tell our children to come out of it and just look at one way? It's so hard. But
Correct,
that's
correct.
where I think as parents, it's so important to navigate through it all. We don't have the answers. And I think it's okay when parents, because most often than not, me and Heike go, yeah. Let me think, because we don't want to come up that we have the answers for everything.
Correct.
And it's okay for parents to say, sorry, I think I made a mistake about this. And then we can go and find the answers together. I think that's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you know, we lose the trust.
Yeah.
Definitely. Whatever that you said, I completely agree 100%. Right? Yeah, it's a journey lah, together with your children to find out about the truth. If let's say we talk about religion, to journey together to find that spirituality within. Right? About the moral compass, maybe a discussion it helps a lot. I know things are black and white for Islam, but it isn't necessarily so when answering.
Yeah.
So when you answer somebody, when you give the answer, it doesn't necessarily to be, it's just black, or it's just white, or it's halal, or it's haram. Not necessarily. You have to explain, then you have to also talk about the other people's opinions, and that you, as a Muslim, or you have as an individual, you are entitled to your own opinion.
I can say something though, because I was not a Muslim right before I converted. And so now being a Muslim, even through the journey of me from my first conversion to now, right? I mean, from my conversion to now, I've grown so much in terms of knowledge and using the tools that Islam has given me. Before Islam, my pre-Islamic days, I always call it, I have nothing to navigate with myself, you know. So, but with the Islamic teachings, and then you go for classes, and you know, and you understand more of how things work. There is such an infrastructure now, so strong, so solid with Islam, that I find that helps me with my kids.
Yeah.
And especially with, I think Juice being my youngest will benefit the most, because I'm a little bit
More
more
experienced. Right?
yeah, I mean, more stuffed with knowledge, I guess, a little bit more, as in from back then, and even way before if I was not a Muslim. So I think with the Islamic values and the teachings, and with the hadiths and the Quran, it's like you can be the most perfect being from there. All your answers can be found in that Quran. Every single thing. You know, it can be as wild as this, out of this world can be.
Yeah.
But there's always an answer there.
Yeah.
So I think seeking knowledge, especially as parents, we cannot get lazy. This is a very important thing. We, or at least one of us, between the two, but it's so important to seek the knowledge so that we can better navigate ourselves and our children.
Anibal mentioned about the Quran, and I agree with that. We're speaking about the Quran and navigating the world, for example, and we talk about, having that communication and everything. If let's say you search in the Quran, right, Surah Al-Furqan, ayat number 63, Allah will describe about the servants, of Allah SWT, Ibadur Rahman. And there Allah SWT will touch about the character of the servant. And when they met with people that are ignorant, for example, they will ignore and they will say salam. And portray good character. So having the right attitude, having the right mindset when they face the world is equally important. And of course, it's the parents. One of the parents' responsibilities to implement that or to share with them, and they can do so through the Quran. Like you say, the answers are there.
Well, you were mentioning just now about your kids and how you have instilled with them the values at home and all that, right? Can you share with us maybe a personal story of yours if you have a proud mama moment?
Proud mama moment.
Based on what your teachings of Islam has been at home, for example, and then you realize that, oh, you know what? Actually, that is exactly what I taught
Yeah.
them to have. And it's being shown.
I can't. Wow, you're putting me in a spot. I can't really tell, but
Just a while.
I know there are moments where, you think that we are nagging, right? As mom, we're nag, and they're always not listening, right? And then one day they just do exactly what you have always wanted them to do, whether it's, do your sunnah prayers, or, you go into the room and you're like going to scold them, like, why you never smile Maghrib? And say, alamak, they're already praying. They already see that tiga semayang is like chucked in one corner. And then they're like, okay, so not bad.
Yes, actually, there's an achievement, you know.
It is. So I think that we sometimes give them very little credit. Okay, maybe at that point of time when you're nagging about them to do something, they're not listening to it. But it is always lingering in your head. So I think as parents, we have to really give them some space, let them make the mistakes, let them, fall a few times, and then they will, but we never should stop telling them what to do. Whether it comes across nagging, just do it.
A reminder.
And then after that, one day they will just do it. And then you'll be like, mashallah, alhamdulillah. And then you will feel that moment again.
I wish there was a pause button that we can press anytime we feel that the kids are growing too fast. The truth is, they will always be our babies, no matter how old they are. And even though we can't protect them from everything, we can give them the best tool there is to navigate this world, the ability to think critically and independently. The only question is, how do we do this?
Now, for the next question, I would like to direct it to Ustaz. We were talking just now about critical thinking, and how to instill in them the correct values. There's only so much we can do to help our kids, right, Ustaz? How can we support their growth and development without making them over-reliant on our presence?
Yeah, okay, Bismillah. Right, so first and foremost, I think this is the most important thing is that we need to be there for them. When it matters, or even if, let's say, when it does not so much matters, but they know that we are there for them. So as long as they do know that we are there, and they are able to come back to us, right? So that's the first thing. And when we are there for them, we can either support them or we can enable them. And there's a line between supporting and also enabling. Supporting means that you give them the right tools, you support in whatever that they want to do, you try to facilitate how they want to do something. But to enable is something that is different and something that we want to avoid. So somebody that enables is, for example, a scenario is that your child either does a mistake or could even be a crime even, right? If let's say you are there to support, then you probably give the right words and motivation, not for the child to repeat that mistake again. Okay, maybe sort of reprimand in a way that is best, right? But if let's say you enable, then you brush it off, then the mistake might occur again.
You cover it up, you mean?
It's possible that you cover it up, a way to enable, or maybe you try to justify for them. Oh, it's okay, you're still small, never mind. Okay, next time don't do again. So next time they do, they expect to get that same answer.
Treatment,
Oh, I'm still small. Okay, I'm the baby and I'm your loved one. Right? Yeah. So there's this in psychology. Okay, they say there's this Wendy syndrome and Peter Pan syndrome. So if we zoom back all the way to our childhood days, Peter Pan and Wendy and the Neverland, they never grow up. So Wendy has his head over heels over Peter, and Peter, on the other hand, is kind of rebellious. But because Wendy wants the affection from Peter Pan, she enables him. She doesn't support him, but enables him. And Peter Pan, being the person that is ever rebellious and doing what he wants to be, the hero and stuff like that in his own never growing up world, he's more empowered, but in the wrong manner. Then that is what we want to avoid. Okay.
Alamak, I've been doing it all wrong.
No lah.
I mean, I love that analogy. I think it's so important because sometimes we don't understand what we're doing. Whether like, are we forgiving them, or should we scold them, right? But I think what's important is that they make their own decisions. I think we as parents sometimes love to make the decisions for them and force our opinions and decisions for them. But after we taught them stuff, they go for classes and stuff like that. We should allow them to explore that.
Yeah.
Because that's when I realized when my other two kids, before they can make a decision, I'm already saying, what are you doing?
You already have the intention, like idea that you're doing something wrong.
Correct. And it's worse when they will go, you always assume, Mama. Then that's the first step of distancing themselves to us. So then with my youngest one, I realized that I let him make a decision like going for Friday prayers. He's only 9 years old. But I'd be like, are you going Friday prayers with your brother? Say, have no school today. Then she's like, no, Ma, I don't want to. I said, okay. I left it, Then after when the brother and the father was all dressing up, I said, wow, look at your brother and your father. They look so nice, and they're all going for Friday prayers. Then after he just looked and he's like, I said, it's okay, you can come and help Mama, be with Mama. He just look. And then I'm like, then he just suddenly changed his mind. He said, Mama, I think I want to go with them. Oh, really? Sure. And then he went, and when he came back, I really congratulated him. I said, Alhamdulillah, you made such a good... And so he made him feel so good. And let them make the mistake so that we can correct them after they've made a mistake. But I think the worst is to let them feel afraid of making the mistakes. I think it would not give them the opportunity to grow as confident people. Because if we're always dictating what they want to do, and they'll be like, oh no, what if I made a wrong mistake? And then they will second guess themselves. I always tell them now that I'm a little bit more into motherhood, I said, look, don't second guess yourself. Never apologize for what you are until you are wronged and somebody say you are wrong. We will always be corrected when we're wrong, right? Yeah. Accept it. As soon as that happens, accept it and move on. Because if you second guess yourself all the time, you'll never be that confident decision makers that we want them to be. And be responsible over your decision.
Yeah, it's true. When we are parents and we try to do something, at the end of the day, we are still human. And there are just so many things that we try to do, and it's work in progress. So in Malay, there's this analogy about the kite, right? Where for you and your child, it's like you playing with the kite. If let's say you let it go too much, then the kite will snap and will fly away. If let's say you restrain the kite too much, then it will never fly. So there needs to be that freedom, but at the same time also there needs to be that guidance, which I feel that the Prophet ﷺ is one role model that we can portray to the children for them to follow. Be it the teens, be it the youth, and even the adults. And they can follow the Prophet ﷺ. And how the Prophet ﷺ actually supported the Sahaba or the companions, right? He would draw lines, okay, not literally, okay, but he would have guidelines to which what you are able to do, what you should not do. Okay, this notion about going to war, for example, okay, during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, it was something that is noble. They wanted to defend Islam back during his time. Okay, and then there will be sign-ups even as young as 9 years old. So for example, the companions Zaid bin Thabit, Samrah bin Jundub, so they would want to sign up to go to war together with the Prophet because they love him, they love Islam. Okay, their fundamentals already there. Okay, but then the Prophet ﷺ drew the line. He did not enable, but he supported. Okay, he said, no, your time has not come yet. So wait for your time. While you are waiting, then do things that able to prepare you for the time that will come. So eventually they did go to war and defended Islam, okay, back during that day, right? But it wasn't because the Prophet enabled them. Okay, enable means, okay lah, okay, you want to go, right? Okay, you train a bit, okay, then go. No lah, but he supported them. Okay, I know you want to go, okay, but not now. So yeah, that's something.
Maybe you can share with us, Ustaz, one of the youths that you've worked with, for example, one of the stories that you have encountered that you have seen this example of Hulu Tarik.
I think when I want to give this example, and if they are listening to this example, then they probably know that I'm talking about them. Okay. So
don't mention name, it's okay. It's another story, you know.
Okay, they like to come to the mosque, Alhamdulillah. Okay, and Masjid An-Nahdah, the youths like to come to the mosque, and those that are close to me, they would frequent the mosque more often. Alright, so there'll be times that I wouldn't be in office. Okay, and I would allow them to, maybe sit at my place. Okay, and I would trust them to close up the mosque at times. Okay, so this trust is not for anybody that come to the mosque. So that one disclaimer. But it's
of course.
for those that
You already know well, right?
they are also part of the mosque. They are the mosque volunteers.
Yeah.
Okay, so there will be times that I trust them, but there will be times also that maybe secretly, if they are listening to this, then it's not secret anymore. Secretly, I'll ask around. Okay, did they lock up? Okay, did they do what I asked them to do? Okay, if let's say I asked them to clean up, they did clean up. Okay, did they study or did they talk more than they study? So these are the things. Then I might call them out if let's say something really bad happens.
Yeah.
Because that's something that I have to lah. I don't want to
Because
enable.
you're the adult here, so you have to take responsibility for it, right? Yeah.
So yeah, that's one example.
Thank you so much for sharing, Ustaz, and also Belle.
So nice, huh?
Yeah, so nice
Why
of
is my
him.
boys not hanging out at the mosque?
Send.
You're welcome.
I know they are hanging out outside the mosque.
Volunteer.
Outstanding Muslims, outstanding.
You can visit me anytime you want.
Alhamdulillah, inshallah. Thank you.
Inshallah, yes. Now, when you talked about your teens, Belle, we understand that teenagers, they often face peer pressure. I think this is one whole category to talk about as well, right? Peer pressure and societal influences that may discourage their independent thinking, because their friends are doing it, so I need to do it also, Ma. You have to understand, something like that.
Oh,
How do you
dear.
navigate these challenges while still encouraging your children to think critically?
I knew it was going to come and bite me. And it does. It really does. How we live our lives will be in question by our children, right? And we all have to be prepared for that. So it's harder for me because before I became Muslim, I was out there. And there are pictures to prove that I was out there. Clubbing, going to clubs is a big issue, right? Because all the friends are doing it. And then the whole question is, Mom, why don't you trust me when I go to clubs? And then how it's not fair because when you were my age, you went clubbing too. I say, yes. And I had to think about this.
How
And
to answer properly.
yeah,
right?
because to me, now, since they've hit 18 and they want to go clubbing, my stand is no, it's wrong. You cannot go.
Yeah.
And because immediately when I kind of weaken on this, then it's hard for them to understand the clear barrier because it's a very strong barrier to what's right and wrong, right? If the mother says it's okay. So if they do go to the club, they know that they're doing it against my wishes. And then I tell them a very strong analogy. I said, I've been there. It's very fun. But I can tell you it's a waste of time. So to all you millennials out there, it's a really waste of time, waste of money. Yes, it's super fun, but it's so short-lived.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, everybody says the same thing. All clubbing people I know, all party people I know will say the same thing.
Yeah.
What a waste of time.
When they reach a certain age. it's
Yes, because as compared to people of, maybe somewhere else in this world or people of yesteryears where people are literally learning philosophy, learning about Islamic teachings, there's so many things to learn and they're invigorated as a human being.
Yeah.
As compared to wasting time. And this is all the, the ways of...
as shaitan.
Thank you. I didn't know what I can say on a place like that. It's kind of got fire come out or something. Those are the ways of shaitan. And so if I went there and I went through it and there is a snake pit, you think I'm going to let you go into the snake pit? I'm going to tell you,
exactly,
no,
correct.
don't go into it. Even to listen to hip-hop music, oh my gosh. Some of the songs, the one line have no proper vocabulary in it. Okay, not just hip-hop, I mean any kind of music.
kind of song.
I'm do you have any sense of expansion of vocabulary? Now. So
Yes.
we have to, so challenging was that? Okay, to you, is music haram?
Hey,
Grey area.
I'll answer you this. It depends on the music that you listen to lah. If let's say you talk about one line and there's no word that you can make out of it and if it's full of vulgarities, then of course no lah. It's confirm haram lah.
No, haram.
Right? Talking about how there's just so much that we can do, then this is all the more reason for us to empower our children to have that critical thinking. So at the end of the day, when we are not there, they need to think for themselves and they need to make the right decisions to whether what I'm doing is right or wrong. If let's say they are able to, rather than go clubbing, invigorate themselves with the teachings of the Quran, then mashallah.
Yeah.
But they need to achieve that level.
Yeah.
And we need to provide them the tools.
I mean, it's a big achievement that their kids are telling you that they even though they are going clubbing, but they know what is wrong and what is right. So that's actually a huge achievement in itself.
That one they do know. They do know what's right and wrong. But it's hard to do the right thing, especially in this day and age. And I acknowledge the struggle. So I think as parents of today, especially in a world as such, I think we have to understand, feel, and really acknowledge their struggle. It's not easy.
It's not easy.
It's so fun on the other side, right? And we're not given much options, to be in an environment where Islamic values are so obviously influencing us.
Yeah.
We're not, So many, things in the blur area.
Yeah.
So it's hard, yeah. And parents, we hardly have time, lah.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes.
Right.
Yeah, so Annabelle, you mentioned about fun and how as a Muslim, like there are a lot of restrictions, and when you go out there, that is the true fun that you can get. Honestly, there is a pinch of truth there, but actually it also goes back to your definition of fun. And when we talk about fun and the high that you can get from doing the things that you love, again, especially in Islam, we term it as vices, right? You just, there's just so much that you can do until you try to find more and more and more, and you'll find emptiness at the end of the day. Which I think in Islam, it is something that we want to try to avoid. And Islam being the religion that you seek spiritual enlightenment from, and you want that fulfillment in life. So if let's say your focus is only fun, and for example, not building a family, or not educating your children.
Not a higher purpose, right?
Yeah, not a higher purpose. And let's not even talk about higher purpose. Let's just talk about, the world and how you want to be a role model for your children. And you embark on all these fun adventures and so on. And when eventually you have a child, all right, and you've done something like truly despicable, then what can you say to your child?
Yeah.
So it's going to be a bit difficult, right? So Islam comes in, and there are other tools of fun, I would say, all right, that of course it's not of the same manner, but it is equally, inshallah, fulfilling for your life. And as far as I know, the people that they really embrace Islam and they really try to, search for the vigor, search for the happiness, the contentment within religion, they do get it in the end. Or at least during their journey, they feel that it is a life much spent, right?
See, that is everlasting, right? For the dunya and akhirat.
Yes,
so whatever that fun that we have here is so short-lived.
Yeah, it's so short. Yeah.
That's why everything is like so little time, right? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes. It's like a drug, they get addicted to a drug.
is a
And
drug,
then after that, after it all wears off, and then they come to that same point, right?
Right.
It's honestly, there's a poignant kind of sad tone to that, right? And I'm reminded of a hadith by the Prophet ﷺ, okay, in which he says about wealth, al-ghina, all right? And the wealth that we seek isn't actually the wealth bikathratil ard, which you have a lot of, worldly possessions and so on, money, treasures. Lakin ghina, al-ghina huwa ghina nafs, right? Which is the contentment that you have within yourselves, going through your lives, inshallah.
MashaAllah, that is a great reminder for us as well. It's been such a great sharing, Ustaz and Belle. Thank you so much for sharing your personal experiences. I think all of us have learned a lot, and what we can prepare ourselves for what's to come, especially young parents like us, Ustaz, right? And Ustaz, thank you so much for your sharing as well. It's a great reminder for us young parents also to instill the correct values in our kids and effective communication to raise thinking children. Thank you, Belle. Thank you, Ustaz.
Thank you very much for having me.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you so much for listening. If you like this episode, follow Tune Islam, share and stay tuned for more. Assalamualaikum.